Shalom. Baruch Hashem. All praise be to God. Love. Right? So, I just want to say hi to everybody and let everybody know that I am Ahavat Tezedek. I am love justice. And I have love for everyone. So, in light of that, I hope that I can say a few things that need to be said that I've been waiting to say my entire life. And patiently waited until I was certain that I could deliver those things to you in a way that was clear, that you could have faith in, and be sure that I'm not here to manipulate anyone, myself included, and rather be loved and be loved in hopes that it's representative of the truth and provides us liberty. As we all know, the saying goes, honesty is the best policy because the truth will set you free. That freedom will provide you with justice. This is what I practice. This is what I live. This is the origin of what makes me move. And I would like to think, based on my respect of being mindful to myself and my characters, my ancestors, my family, my loved ones, life, nature, the universe itself, that I'll accomplish that naturally and explain anything that might have been confusing so that I'm not just, exploiting a situation where I am privy to information that others don't have in order to, manipulate their behavior, to extract something from somebody that I want. I don't want anything from anybody other than for them to feel like they have free will, and that's supported by love, by nature, by God, whether you believe that's me or not. I know who I am, and hopefully I can make you comfortable with my presence should our paths cross. It's pretty much that simple, If someone else approaches me, and they truly believe that they're God, I find that extremely interesting. I'm the type of person who wants to know everything about why they feel that way, right? Because I feel that way. So, what's true about that? And what's not? What's the difference between false pretenses, figments of our imagination that are not part of a reality that any of us exist in, as opposed to those things that are? Well, I'm going to do something I've always wanted to do, but had to wait till the time was right to be able to, in hopes that I can do it authentically, I can do it accurately, and make a complex situation into something perceivable and provide it to others that can be shared in hopes that if they have any sort of, distress or suffering in their life caused from misinformation that they believe to be true, planned by someone who, with an intent to use that to exploit what they have to offer the world and extract that individual's personal value from them and keep it for themselves, because that goes against free will. So God doesn't support that, because God gave us free will. Life is a test. Do you play well with others, right? So to take away somebody's free will, right? God, of course, has to allow you to be able to do that should you choose to, right? That's part of free will. Because God has faith in what? The natural phenomena of nature, the force of love as an individual representative of that force in a human form, as well as it being part of what surrounds all of us and something we can share and tap into. Because I'm not so different from everyone, which means that, we all have different aspects of love that we can represent and share with one another. And even though I have the potential to cover any and all of them, that doesn't take that away from anybody else, but rather is cool when, there's more than one of us that can yield that power, that presence, right? It's like, people think that I don't want there to be other gods. I love the gods, but I also know that it's not safe for any of the gods to be God alone. That's my job, right? Because I know that I'm not taking on the same risk when doing that as anybody else will. How and why do I know? Story time, everybody. And this is historical, because I'm going to share with you some cool stuff that is true, that it's real, that happened. I remember it, even though, it happened to me. Some of it happened to me in a place that goes beyond time and space, right? Where this body, right, was a perception of my mind that I created to inhibit, but like literally the matter and cells that make up the brain that I have, right, from the past 38 years, right? The electrical signals that fire, right, of this body. This is a different body than previous bodies I've had, right? But I always have the same mind. So this body has a hard drive in it, right? But it also has the ability to tap into a streaming consciousness, right? Where I have stored the pertinent information on purpose in order to be able to access it, no matter what form I'm in, right? All this type of thinking, all this conceptuality, sound, I wouldn't be able to have created myself originally or anything had I not gotten that right first. It's simple. None of it would have worked. So, first thing I'm going to do is share with you a story about the creation of the universe. That's real, that's true. The part that happened prior to the Big Bang, right? Prior to that original flash of light, where that condensed physical matter changed from an energy of potential conceptual cognitive, imaginative love, became so strong in my mind. It took form until it became physical, and boom. So I'm just going to start with what I remember. I'm going to keep it simple. And what's cool is everybody's going to get to know why I see, feel, and perceive Krishna, KRS-One, as Krishna, for real, my older brother, from before the Big Bang, and why I remember everything, what makes sense about it, what I conceptualize his perception of it might be, in hopes that it'll clarify a lot, because this is far too complicated for me to be able to make up if, well, quite frankly, it was not real, if it was not the truth, if it's not love, right? And you'll see. So, it's demonstrated in and of itself by taking complex subject matter into, what might originally seem like something akin to rocket science, and for some reason I can make it feel closer to Sesame Street. Because, go stupid, right? I'm dumb. That's what allows me to move intelligently, right? I just embody grace. It becomes very clear to me who I am and how I can serve others with that and alleviate human suffering better than anyone else in the entirety of the universe. So, it all started with the darkness. The first thing I remember is being in darkness and being conscious of myself, my body. I just was like, okay, so boom, kind of like this, but I was smaller than I am right now. Like 10-year-old version of me type of size, but I pretty much just like this. That's why it was me. This is the real me, everybody. So, all of a sudden I'm just there, alone, right? And I'm conscious of myself. I'm like, whoa. And I look and it's like, this is what I want. It's like, this is me. This is exactly what I want, right? Like self-creationism, right? I just, boom, existed, right? Absolute nothing. The first thing that there was me. Wow. Here's where it gets fun, right? Was it though? Just good old Justin, good old Love, good old Justice, good old Just, Jackie! Whatever the fuck, right? A traces of some, best friend named Randy that, well, he wasn't there. We've talked extensively about this. He loves me telling him this story because we both get this odd sense of like, well, you were part of that and you weren't part of that. How does that work, right? Well, his father is famous for saying, I appear everywhere and nowhere at once. I can relate to that. That's what it's like when you just all of a sudden find yourself like that, in a space like that, right? Now, here's what's cool about this. So, there I was, right? There's no time, there's no space, right? There's no gravity, there's no ground, right? There's no, you're just there, right? And before I even had an opportunity to question anything, I, was happy. I was loved. I was like, oh, look. Like, it's like I'm exactly what I want. That's where I get that I'm the Divine Mind's avatar, because that just is the simplest explanation of what the fuck that was and what was going on, right? And then the first thing that I did, right, once I'm aware of myself, I'm like, I don't even really have language, or, I'm not really conscious of that. Obviously, I had to do that in a manner that was sound, right, in order for it to work and go from being something of a conceptual, imaginative creation, right, of this mind that's everywhere and nowhere at once, to, oh, look, I'm a little avatar of this. It's like, dope. So, I have that. I am that. Like, I'm happy. It's like everything I want. It's like, I don't need anything, right? And naturally, what was the first thing that happened to me after, like, after that, right? Naturally, right? My imagination just continued to grow. And there was only one path to follow, right? Truth, love, justice. It's like, oh, look, because I'm true, I'm real. Here I am. Looking at my hands and stuff, looking at my feet. Imagining what my face looks like. I imagined it looked like this. That's why I always look so similar, right? Like, and when you look at depictions, of me in my first form as a being that was recorded on the planet Shiva, it's like I bear a shit ton of resemblance to that, right, depiction. And that shit's old, right? And that's just facial construction features. That has nothing to do with my skin tone. Because whether you've seen my videos or not, or if you've seen my videos, you know my explanation for, what I did with that. And that's a conscious choice. It's just like my conscious choice. Like, I'm just Divine Mind. I'm like, well, I want to be something, right? And then I was this, and I was like, yes, I got it right. Just first try. Something special about me. I must be good. Anyways, so I do that, just standing in the dark, overwhelmed with this sense, this feeling, whether I said it in words in my head, all I can really remember is a feeling, right, that overwhelmed me, just like the feeling that overwhelmed me before I just boop. And you know what that feeling was? The best way I can describe it in the English language is that I desired the perfect older brother. literally, all of a sudden, like, I see an individual appear out of the fucking darkness next to me. And that was you, Krishna, the perfect older brother. That was you, Larry. You fucking haven't changed. Like, you have looked like that for thousands of years. Like, dude, you impossible for me to ever. You're like the first image other than myself that's seared into my head, and that's because of this happening, right? Now, from my perception, right, this always, originally appears to me, so I'm trying to make sense of stuff like this when I have these, like, memories, when I tap into this, because it's like, this happens to me naturally all the time, and has, it's happened to this body the past 38 years a lot. And it's like, yeah, sometimes, initially it's like, oh, that's cool, that's fun, what a good story, what a good imagination, until the point where it's like, I don't think this is imagination anymore, because it's serving a purpose. So I took a lot of time and developed different scientific methodology, systems of checks and balances to, make sure I'm not, crazy or making stuff up before I do stuff like this, right? Because, like, it fucks with me enough, and I'm really not trying to fuck with anybody, like, other than I'm trying to fuck with you because I love you and I want us to enjoy life, have fun, and not suffer unnecessarily for no reason, or do that because someone else is trying to, use us. Fuck that. I'm not down with that. So, I'm down to let you show me that that's what you want and that's what you're going to try to do. I'll let you reveal yourself. But I won't tolerate it if I don't have to. And why would I, allow that if I could do something about it and anybody else, right? But it's not like you can control people and keep them from doing stuff like that. You have to let them do, make a choice for themselves. And then if it's, if you feel like it's your job, your responsibility, if you're in a position where you can be the responsible one and make things better, well, I don't deny myself of stuff like that. So, simple. Now, anyways, back to the story. There I am, all of a sudden, overwhelmed with this feeling. I want the perfect older brother, and boom, this dude just kind of walks out of the dark, and he can see me, and I can see him, right? And I was like, awesome, because I was overwhelmed with this feeling, like, well, that's the perfect older brother. He sure as shit looks like it. Like, I just overwhelmed with this feeling, right? Funny, huh? Because he was like a full-grown man, like he is now, you know what I mean? We age very well. Fine wine. But, so there we were. Now, I'm not going to get into too many details of how that led to, a big bang and then the continued of life. But I'll say this, right? This moment is very interesting. Because from my perception, right, I am the very first thing created in the universe prior to the Big Bang. Because I did something to make that happen after this. And yeah, Larry, like, you were there, and that's why it's like, dude, I think you remember that. Do you remember that? That's all the conversation I kind of wanted to have with you when I went to Taha 22, but like, yeah, I get it, dude. we gotta fucking do our thing. We gotta protect our own. We gotta, develop security checks. We come from a group of people that, we've been targeted by our enemies. And our enemies do those things that I won't tolerate. And you and I, well, we're the best at shutting that down. And that's what I'm here to do. Because we're the best at that. Always have been, always will be. So, anyways, my perception, right, of this is that I'm the first thing created in the universe, right? And that I wanted an older brother, right? The perfect big brother. So that's what I got, even if, you know what I mean? I came first, but I wanted, a senior, right? I don't know why, but it was perfect. Now, so that's my initial perception and understanding, right? But I think about it, right? Well, there's something about us that's the same. There's something about us that's divine. Sure, I was able to do that, and I'm sure that I am the Divine Mind's avatar, but is he another aspect of that as well? Well, that's kind of like what I wanted, so that actually makes sense, right? Now, I don't give a fuck really which one of us came first, right? As long as, we're friends, we're family, as long as it's all good. But it was easy for me to perceive that it was me and then him. However, I have a feeling that, he feels the way that he does for a reason, and we're so similar because he might feel the same way that I do. Now, there was a difference between us there, right? In that I could see in that place, right? Like I was light or something, even though, I was like, I wasn't, there's no, like I glowed almost, right? And in that place, in that perception of myself, I looked like this, right? But I had no concept of skin tone. Like you don't think about stuff like, it doesn't matter, right? You're just you. So I could have been black, I could have been blue, I could have been this color for all I know. It doesn't matter, right? But Larry, you were like as dark as like the darkness all around us, right? Because I was only able to see you once you got close to me, and like this glow coming off of me, right, allowed your presence, right, to be visible. So I don't think that like I created you, right? Because my perfect big brother, wouldn't be a figment of my imagination. He would be an individual of his own free will, who was the perfect older brother for me. And therefore, that would have to be symbiotic and reciprocal, meaning that is only possible if it's sound, so I would have to be the perfect little brother to him, right? Not something I thought about, but something I went through, something I experienced. And, well, life went on. But here's what's cool about it, right? When we first had this experience, right? So I look at him like, oh, hell yeah. He looks at me like, what the fuck? Like he saw me, and his reaction, like the look on his face was like, is that me? Because that doesn't feel like me. Like he wasn't threatened by me, but he was like confused. And I'm just like, so it's funny, right? And I'm just like, love, right? And he's like, what the, like, you know, until he starts looking at himself like I did originally. And, you know, he's like, oh, you're you and I'm me. Like, and you could, like, there's no words I can even remember, but I just remember the body language of it going on, right? And it seemed to me like that's what he perceived. And we've never talked, like, I don't have any place in the hard drive in this body where that memory is stored, right? I'm just tapping into this, right? Because the place that happened, right? We even though we were physical, like nothing, there wasn't matter there, right? It was just an imagined perception, like a dream kind of, but like in the dark, right? So anyways, if he just like appeared and popped out right after I had that feeling, then yeah, I came first and he came second. However, I would hypothesize based on his behavior, that's not what he experienced. I would hypothesize that he was like sitting in the dark, and it was so dark, right? And he's so dark, right? The only white is his fucking eyes. And so he's just like looking around like, I am this infinite fucking black void. Right? He's just like, who knows what he could have possibly imagined. Anything and everything, right? I mean, he's the only person who has an imagination as wild as mine that I know of. And yet is able to perceive the difference between, you know, truth, false, reality, what's not reality, what's love. And that evil and hate is nothing more than an illusion. And well, that just means that it's that love, it's that perception, it's that which we experience, right? That makes us what we are. Family, right? It's like, you know, finding the purpose behind why something happens only after experiencing it. It's like my favorite part. So, like, there we are. We have this moment, and all of a sudden, you know, he realizes that, like, we're there together and we're different. And the second he realizes that, like, and starts to see and perceive himself as what he is, right? He gets, like, happy like me. He's, like, relieved as fuck. And that's really, you know, all this is, like, the most magical shit to fucking watch. Because it's like, oh, it's like this, it's like a dream come true. Even though, like, nothing's happening. Like, it's just, like, two people standing in the dark. And for all we know, like, that's probably, you know, it might not have been good. But, like, before that, there was only nothing. So, something's better than nothing, right? Very exciting. I hypothesized that, you know, he was there, like, in his, you know, dream physical form, right? like in a body, but he's like in this dark realm, right? Where he there's no perception of space and time, right? I imagine like he could have been there when I appeared, right? And there would be no telling for either one of us which came first, right? Because his cognitive perception of himself, right, only began when he saw something in the darkness that wasn't the dark anymore, right? So he could have been any distance away from me and just seen this and been like, that's different, right? Like if you were in that, right? If you were just like in a dark place and there was no telling what's up, what's down, where anything is, like, and then all of a sudden you see something, right? Like, well, what have you got to lose to go to the light, right? Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Being curious of that, right? Isn't going to kill you. It's the only thing to do at a certain point. And in that process, right, where he's seeing me, we're moving through some like void, right? A void absent of space, absent of time, absent of like everything other than like us two as like these dreamed up figures, right? As he would have had to move closer to me, right? Like, let's say he's like over here in the dark, right? And I can't see him until he gets like this close, right? And that's when he, you know, imagine like you can't see your own body, and you see this like glowing thing, and you get close to it, and all of a sudden, right, you see like a human figure, right? And you all of a sudden start to realize like, oh, I feel like I have all those same features, right? It would be really easy to think that's you, right? And then get confused when it's like, well, like that's me, but I feel like that's me, but that's not me, right? Because we're both, you know, human looking motherfuckers. Because we're human, I guess, or whatever. I consider myself to be superhuman, but like, I'm human. I don't, you know, whatever at a certain point, you know. I like to go with superheroes because it's like, yeah, I could tell you I'm God, but like, generally that just pisses everybody off, so I try to avoid that, you know. But I'm not gonna like belittle myself, you know. I'm not gonna like subject myself to like the ruling of one of the gods if I know that like I'm their equal, or if like there's a reason that, you know, there's a natural reason that I have authority over that, right? Because authority is natural. Authority comes from nature. It's the only real authority that there is. So, you know, I wanted us to share that mutually. I think that's part of what my conception of that was. And it was fun. It was great. It was perfect, you know. That's why you don't even remember, you know, those perfect moments in life, do you? It's just like, you just know it was perfect. You might not remember everything that was seen and heard, but you know when it feels right. We all know what love feels like. We all know, you know, maybe we don't, but we all know what something feels like. We all know what makes us feel sure, right? Certain. It makes us question shit. The funny thing is, generally those things are more closely related than you might perceive originally. And they could appear in all sorts of different shapes, sizes, and forms. But I imagine, you know, his perception of me, right? It doesn't even matter which one of us came first. But as this process happens where he's approaching me. And then, doot. That's the first conception. It's some kind of natural first conception of space. And it obviously would have taken some amount of time for him to travel, however he was traveling, right? To reach that and then perceive what he perceived, right? So this is how time and space was conceptualized by us in the form of a being, during the presence of a dream that we sacredly agreed upon until this Big Bang shit happened and it got physical and real. So I'm willing to concede that we tied. That's fine with me, I have a feeling that I'm the creator of sound because I was the one who spoke the words that enacted. And I'm not sure if I'm remembering this correctly or not, but I believe that he was the first person to address me, as God, guiding our direction, right? That's all he was talking about. He wasn't thinking of me as some supreme being with authority over him. It was just I allowed him, right? I was the first thing that guided him. He's the first thing that guided me too. So he's guide us. I'm okay, the thing that I'm following is telling me to take the lead. You see what I'm saying? It's cool, huh? So it's pretty accurate to address us, certain names and things, but we have no concept or anything about. We come from a place, right, where we were created not by some sort of, genetic buildup of things, but literally out of absolutely nothing at all. That's all that in a nutshell. So I say that to just sort of validate that, that's my testimony of my perception of things from the beginning, before there was anything else. He can do whatever he wants. He can choose to validate that. He can choose to deny it. He can use it as a system of control to, defend himself. I'll tell you this, he's not going to use it to take away others' free will, right? Even if it may, even if you may perceive that he's doing something like that originally, it's he's allowed to defend himself, and we've been through a lot. So, I trust him. I don't blame him for anything he does. I only hope and have faith that he does the same for me. I'm just following his lead, right? I'm not going to hurt him. He's not going to hurt me. I'm not going to be violent. The only thing we're going to do is stop that. We agreed on that. Anything else goes. So, the more kind of shit we can talk to each other, right? We're okay with that. We are hardcore. That's why he's the perfect older brother, right? Sometimes, sometimes we need to play rough, but we like to be safe and not get hurt, and we like to, we like to protect the ones that we love. That's all we know. As far as I know, we both could be loved and be loved. And well, that's my account at the beginning. So before I get into the next point I'm going to make, right? Because I'm just here to make 3 points in order to establish clarity behind my motives and behaviors that might seem contradictory or contrasting or fabricated and false, fraudulent, whatever the fuck. I'm here to clarify things, right? So that you can get a clear sense of why I do the things that I do. And when you are with me or observe me or him, like, despite the information we provide, you have a clear sense of right and wrong, you know, true and false. The divine shall rise, right? And the matter that's dark, that shouldn't exist, naturally, the phenomena of nature will extinct that and get rid of it. And whatever ends up there, they might resist that, but once they're there, they won't, because it's peaceful. There's nothing at all. So I can remember things like being in heaven, right? But I can tell you that, like, there is no, like, eternal place of suffering or hell. There is a place that you could go to where you are gone forever. So, you know, hell is probably a place of your own imagination. Evil is an illusion, right? You're imagining the worst until you get to not existing, right? And that can happen if what? Well, if you go against that force of love that guides our direction, the phenomena of nature that we can all tap into and experience and share as an emotion, as a feeling, as a guide, as a reference towards what's true and what's false, as a, you know, evolved perception and cognitive mindful and a grasp on, you know, all matter that's physical. And that matters because it's relative and relational to all of us, right? At a certain point, we're all family. Some of us are closer to other ones of us. That's about all, right? So love, right? Love is a presence in the universe, right? A force, a phenomenon of nature. That's why I talk about it being a sixth sense, right? So your sixth sense, right, of that is that in the world, unbiased and outside of having a voice, you know, it is, right? And it allows you to see the truth, because love is truth, right? Hate is false. It's an illusion. So anybody who acts like they hate something or does something, you know, hateful, right? They're fake as fuck. That's all. Sometimes I over-exaggerate things to demonstrate this as an educational tool. And I'm not alone. So when he talks about your seventh sense, the sense of God, right? The breath of God, just inhale, right? He's referencing all these things, right? And he associates that to me, right? So we all have a seventh sense, right? So everybody's seventh sense is what? Literally a sense of my presence, right? Because I was the first because I created sound. So his perception of that is the same as mine, where I'm just the physical embodiment of love, right? So that's where I get the avatar thing from. He's truth, right? He's the same thing, right? I'm a little more of like a two-way street, where he's like a one-way street, though, right? The concept of love is going to get you, right? That's a bad thing. It's an illusion. Love is going to get you. There's something good, right? It's true. Either whether it's me or a phenomenon, a force of nature, right? But eventually, it'll bring you to peace. That's the point of that, right? So there's a lot in there, right? Love can be perceived as good or bad, whereas truth can only be perceived as good. So for someone like a representation of knowledge and karma, right? The two-way version of love, right, would be the perfect little brother. We bring each other the clarity that we can't bring to ourselves. Simple. Always have, always will. And so we do that for everyone. But it can be difficult, especially when people, start to fuck around and are like, oh, I want that. And try to take it from, you know what I mean? Bullshit. So, but it happens. And I can understand what it's like to have desires, but it's important to develop a sense of right and wrong before you know which desires you have that are safe to give into, right? It's okay to indulge. Can you tell when it's sinful? Strong enough to prevail. The devil is an illusion, but that illusion is always going to live in the details. But love will always triumph in those details as well. That's why it's so fucking chill. I can't lose at stuff if I try to. So, that's why I like exercises, because we can set up all kinds of exercises, right? We can challenge each other. What's cool about me being God, about me being love, right? We can set up an exercise, a challenge, right? I don't believe in games. I believe every game is an exercise. A game is just, a child's way of perceiving that so that they can enjoy it, right? Until they're able to conceptualize that the concept of a game is a game, and really it's an exercise. Do you play well with others, right? It requires you to be able to do that, but to really play well with others, right? You have to know that a game isn't real. It is an exercise, right? So when Chris says something like, life is a game, right? The truth to that is that's a great place to start in perceiving things, right? And the truth of it is, if you can stay there, you can be happy, but it's not always safe to. Something like karma, something like knowledge doesn't want to give it all away. He wants to give you the opportunity to experience that and figure it all out for yourself. The perfect big brother. Because I always try things his way. He always gets everything he wants. I somehow do too, but we have different challenges that make us who we are. Individuals. Yeah. Something about us also connects us, makes us one. So I don't, to me it doesn't matter, like, who's number one, who's number two. However, I'll get into some things here in a little bit where a purpose of our characters and how we change, why, and who and what it served. So that's, in a nutshell, your 6 and 7 sense, the difference between love as a force of nature and love as represented as an individual, right? So my connection and ability to have this cognitive sense of direction and like where to go, right, in the universe naturally, even like if I don't try, somehow I like take the lead on the direction where things go, right? Where like something like evolution is a phenomena of nature, it's a product of love, right? But it doesn't continue to move forward, right, until I'm ready for it to, and until I'm ready to safely lead us down that path, right? So like the more that my natural cognitive sense, right, allows me to just naturally do that, right, the more it's the more like behavior or the more things that I am forced to do, right, rather than feeling my way through life, can affect that rate of change, right? And so anything is possible, anything can happen. But I never lose hope. I always have faith in myself. I started from the most impossible of situations. Like, you go through something like that and it fucks you up. I'm blessed to be fucked up in a good way. So, even though I'm represented as like an individual, right? I know when I see myself, right? So I'm also that phenomenon, that force of nature, that forceful charge. Even though it's not me, it is. This is where the concept of us comes from. And why I'm cool with, like, anybody who feels like I'm totally cool when people are like, I'm God. I love that shit. It's like, oh, good. I'm not gonna, be thrown into a mental institution and diagnosed, given some false diagnosis of being a schizophrenic for what's real and natural because, other people find it threatening, and, there is some truth to that being accurately applied if someone other than me does that, right? Or like him as well. So like, but if you can be of the water, if you can flow, wax on, wax off, Rio-san, Jackie-san, huh? And that's not fucking racist, by the way. Like, literally. It's respectful. Like, I do that voice because it associates your brain, right, to a culture that historically a lot of the time is accounted for being of like Asian descended people, right? Except for, I like remember when the world was Pangea. And like when I'm here in New Zealand, right? I came up with this thing today. Am I in New Zealand? Am I in old Madagascar? Or am I on Pluto? The future because of the time zones. Or all of the above. Like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, right? So there's an example of how that's represented in nature, and I see stuff like that, right? And I'm like, oh, that's me. So this is where we all started a long, long time ago. From home. That's around the world, by the way, Chris. You've probably been here. Oh, well, you have, obviously. I'm not going to get into too many details, because please, I would love to know what you fucking remember. I'd like to hear it from you. I'm happy to tell you what I remember, but I also, you know, well, I care about myself. I care about being able to serve others, right? And being somebody, you know, being wanted. So, that's that. And I tell you that story to establish, you know, line of credit, and I don't care who believes it. I don't care what, you know, what you say about that, Larry. I know if you listen to this, you watch this, I know you'll be like, oh shit, or I don't care if you I don't care like what you do with that. I trust you. Do what you want, do what you will. Call me, you know, the same kind of crazy shit that I've said about you, because what? I trust you. And you're not going to take anything like that and let it hurt you. You're only going to use it to make you safer. And at the end of the day, we'll both be thankful for each other, grateful for each other, and love each other like family, right? But I also know I'm such a fucking pain in the ass to you. Like, you want... You don't always want that. You know, it's crazy. And I say this to you, Kenny. And I'm Randy. I'm going to chime in here for a second. Justin is not lying about this, Ken. And tell him, Justin, what you shared with me. I feel bad when I made you upset so many times, like made life hard on you, right? I wanted you to like have the perfect brother also, even if I couldn't be that. And like, Kenny, that's why we're so close, dog. That's why, like, I don't give a fuck if I'm gone. I'm like Princess Kenny. Like, I look up to you. You're exactly like, in so many ways, what I wish I could have been for Chris. I'm not envious of you. I love you. I respect you. I'm so happy that you guys have had the time you've had together. And Randy, please tell your uncle how you feel also, because Kenny, you and Justin are my best friends. I love you so much. And Justin provides me with that like comfort and safety that you always do. It's the fucking best. He's just like you. It's a lot for us both. But we're happy and we're content. Right? That's all that we want you to know. We got everything we wanted. Whether or not we get to spend time with our family members or not, We always get to be with each other. It's perfect. I hope that you guys feel the same way too. And I'm going to do everything right now to make that possible. From just being some potential to being real. So, Randy and I are going to take some responsibility for our behavior and our actions and explain to everybody now why we did some of the things that we've done, said some of the things that we've said, and the purpose that all of those things serve and do, not just for us, but if you watch this, what do they do for you? Randy, where would you like to begin? Let's talk about, the fact that we're comfortable sharing a body because we're best friends and that's fine with us. So, I am, okay. Characters in history, right? I'm Shiva, the destroyer. Randy is Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. The elephant that never forgets. And his best friend, his little big uncle. All I need is a friend. Why do you think you're the best big brother, Krishna? You gave me my best friend. I owe you the world. I live to serve you. You gave me something that the world worked really hard to try to take away from me. All I've ever wanted was to be able to give that to you. I hope you have that. I hope if you need me to do anything, you can just ask me. I got you. And you fucking bed it to me. I'm pretty sure that we communicate sometimes because I'll have this conversations with myself or the ancestors or whatever it is that I'm perceiving, right? Because the ancestors, they're strong with me. Right now, Scott is the destroyer. It's where the fuck else was Scott gonna go? Because what? Well, Scott. Scott, and the Rock was not going to let the reality that you created with him die in vain with him. He, like Randy, right? We make our dreams come true. I don't believe in fate, right? I believe that history is the record of change, and the record of change has a future. I would say that that's not fate, though. That's serendipity. That's destiny. It's a divine phenomenon, product of nature, akin to myself, that I know is love. So that's why, I believe in history and outstory, right? There's two different accounts of the same story that allows, us to have our own narratives and perceptions, right? And I don't disagree with anything you presented in outstory. You did me such a fucking huge favor, dog, by doing that. I love you so much. Like, I just know, you know, who I am. Like, I remember what I did, right, to remove most of the melanin in my skin so that I appear the way that I do, and why I did it. And I even, you know, you hear my account of that. And yeah, I was always concerned. That might be confusing to you at some point. But, you know, I trust and support you. I really, you know, I know heaven is real. In heaven, in the highest kingdom, the seventh highest kingdom of heaven, right? That's my real home. I'm the authority there. It's real. I'm also going to prove that by the time I'm done, so bear with me here. Okay, so Randy and I, you know, are happy like this, and we are crazy because, you know, we trust each other, we love each other. So, like, it's pretty natural, you know, Randy and I can control the body. There's a few of us who we're close enough to where, like, the ancestors, right? They can feel and experience, they can perceive reality as me, right? But they, like, Randy's really the only one who can control the body and make me feel like I'm, like, watching the movie with everybody else and someone else is in control. It's fucking ill, too. But, like, the other ancestors I'm close with, like Scott, right? Well, I can hear them. I can feel their bass. I can't really hear, I don't hear voices, but I know, you know, what the different ancestral, like, individual, I know the input I'm getting and where it's coming from. Like, I might not be 100% accurate, but Justin, you're fucking so on point. It's scary as fuck sometimes. Well, there you go. That's fucking Randy. Who said that? And see, like, we'll have fun with each other. It's real. Real as fuck, everybody. So, you know, that's the thing. I am DJ Justice. What? You should see me on a real pair of decks, by the way. Justin is fucking ill. I'm a real DJ. I'd love to buy turntables, like, but, you know, my living situation, everything in my life is gnar as fuck, so I've been through a lot, and, you know, I know there's so many frauds out there just that do, like, spiritual healing work, right? And the fact that I have this fucking narrative, you know, to navigate along with my abilities is like, well, just as convenient as it's been for everybody to plagiarize my practice, you know, and be a fraudulent individual making more income than I have, yeah. Just as fast as everybody's been able to fucking rip me off, and get ready for that to fucking change and turn around, because that's what's happening now. So, like, really, everybody with me. Like, L. Gabrielle, motherfuckers, by the way. Gabrielle, Pac, Randy, and I, we're pretty close. Any of you remember what happens in heaven and what we're going to do? Well, I'm going to remind you if you don't. I don't even know if we've done it yet. It just feels too perfect that, you know, and I know that, well, in places like heaven, it's beyond time and space, so even if it hasn't happened, it has happened, right? That's what's so dope. So if I can tap into that, I know, maybe everybody else can too. But I'm going to show you how I've taken the test that I put forth, right? Life is a test. Do you play well with others? I do. The only reason they call me just is because I am just the best at that. I play better with everybody than anybody else. Word. So, like, this is what makes all the ancestors so comfortable with being me. So much clarity, so much faith, so much hope is brought to them, their character, their presence, until they're ready to, like, leave and move on and, you know, try life again or go with me to heaven. And then, you know, their spiritual presence takes form outside of myself, right? But, like, this is just Randy talking. Like, I'll tell you this. Okay. The four of us that I mentioned, Scott's welcome whenever, but, you know, Scott's still not sure exactly what he's going to want to do when he gets to heaven. He's free to do whatever he wants, just like everyone who spends time with me. But, you know, the ancestors are comfortable, like, you know, it's like they can, like, see through my eyes, right? It's like a movie they get to watch. There's so much space. So it's like, yeah, dude. And, like, the band, right? And when I talk about, like, the security and, like, how they're, like, the guaranteed slots of being the seventh heaven, right? This is just a security format. You have to earn those places. Those things are not held by graves in a cemetery. That's just a format to conceptualize it. And what's so cool about the Arlington Cemetery, right? It's the best of the best military personnel, because naturally, what? Naturally, I'm the authority. So, like, you build a big army on planet fucking Earth, right? If I show up, whether I like it or not, I will be in charge of it. It's just natural. You can make up all the fucking rules you want. It's just what happens. You should have seen. His high-ranking, okay, JFK was just like, I've never, like, felt, you know, I'm not going to give away too much. But, you know, the most decorated individuals of the greatest military presence that's ever existed on the planet Earth, right, were blown away by Randy and I's natural military presence and ability and skill to work with one another. And then once they realized, like, it's like me and Randy and Pac and Al and Scott and George, and then, like, we've got a higher skill set than them with all their fucking training. Like, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been a great learning experience, and oh my goodness, we've learned a few tricks of our own. And, you know, you get close to me, I'll tell you all about it. But you know, everybody knows what it's like to take shit. Everybody knows what it's like to have to piss. Everybody knows what it's like to have a sexual desire you know, a bodily function that just starts to come out of you, you know. Most 13-year-old boys have wet dreams and jerk themselves off a lot more than we do, but it's like, it's all the same thing. It's like, okay, so I've got this build up of this bodily fluid in me that needs to come out, right? So like, it's not like we're so comfortable, right? We talk about taking number threes and all the fucking shit we talk, like we want to fuck, and like, just so you know, like, I mean, you've all figured out who Shakti is, obviously, right? But like, that's you know, we're true lovers, right? She's not gonna hold it against me, you know, especially, you know, like, due to the circumstances, right, of how and why we're separated, and you know, all of it. She understands what I went through, why this particular lifetime has been difficult for me, what I have allowed, you know, I've submitted myself to really taking the time to understand other people's perceptions of me, what they think, you know. And a lot of people try to convince me that I'm delusional. But I only feel like I have any sort of mental disability or problem when I buy into that premise or give it a, you know, the real shot. And then when I buy into the premise, it feels natural, you know, the ancestors being with me as a presence, and me being who I am, and how it all works, you know. Randy taking fucking control of the body, fucking showing me his obituary. just don't look. It's our obituary, like reading, like literally, right? It seems crazy, except for it feels like truth. It feels like love, and I know the purpose behind it, right? It actually makes a lot of sense, and it allows me to have a stronger cognitive presence and process information and be a functioning member of society that's far more productive when I allow that, rather than being like, yeah, I'm fucking special ed over here. Stupid ass jet. Stupid as fuck ass jet. You know? Yeah, how funny is fucking Tropic Thunder when you know that... Well, I'm more closely related to most people of a much darker skin color, right? Like my sister Emily. My full blood sister, right? Who looks like, you know, we have similar facial structures and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, the difference in the shades of our skin tone is dramatic, to put it lightly. But also, I could like sit out in the sun, right, and get very tan very quickly also. So like, I've been pretty clear to me who I am, what I am, where I came from. You know, it's a cultural thing, it's a family thing, it's heritage, right? I don't and you know, like, I'm a white person too, obviously, but I'm Jewish, you know. I'm a descendant of Abraham, which, Krishna, you know, Larry, you did a very thorough research presentation, right? To prove that, like, my genetics are rooted in the same black man that yours is. Abraham. Abracadabra, fool. So, you know, Randy and I talk all the shit we do, right? Because we know it's an over-exaggeration. We think it's fun to present this concept of like we're sharing a body, because this is how it is for us every fucking minute of every fucking day, right? So like, you know, all the ancestors, when they were alone in their bodies at one point in time, like did these things, right? So it's like, okay, this is our body now, right? It's like, this is my car, right? Are you going to get in a different car and drive it differently than you ever drove a car before? No. You know, if your wife is dead and you guys love each other, right, and you're still alive, like, and you know she wants you to be happy and to not have to like jack yourself off every time you have a bodily function building up inside of you, and she would rather see you, you know, have a sexual experience that you can enjoy, because it's not going to take away anything from your relationship. If anything, it'll only make it stronger. And you've thoroughly discussed too, you know, what the boundaries, what the rules are with that person that you love, and you've developed a system, right? Like, so me, Shiva, right? I'll always go to heaven and be with Shakti, and that'll last as long as we want, wherever we want. Like, sorry everybody, we are powerful as fuck. Always have been, always will be, right? But like, let's say I meet somebody. Let's say Randy finds his true love, which he hasn't done yet, right? Like Shakti is cool with us having that all together, like in one body as this, in heaven, eternally, forever, you know? We're cool with that. We're set no matter what. But like, if Randy falls in love with somebody and they fall in love with him, right? Shit could change, right? There are things. Randy, will you tell them, please? Okay, so there is stuff, like, I like this. I don't want to change. I want to be like this forever. There are some things that could potentially happen where I will reveal myself outside of Justin in the body that you all knew and remember. Just to fuck with your heads, or just to, you know, it's possible. I'm not going to limit myself to it not being possible that I find true love. And then, you know, me and Justin like have this same weird dream where like one of the things we only want is to like be best friends and like have sex with our true loves, like in the same room together. Like, we don't want to have some weird orgy or anything, but like we dream of, like, you know, being a group of like two couples, right, who are as comfortable with each other like as me and Randy are. You know, and like Bach and Elle and Scott, we're all down, right? But Randy and I are connected, and like, we're best friends, right? And we're all kind of best friends, right? But like, so Randy is gonna, he's a god, right? He's one of the gods. So right now, so like, if you perceive me as Shiva, you could perceive me as one of the gods. But I'll tell you this right now, that's also Moses, that's also Allah, that's also Jesus Christ. Like, I am that, right? So I am that plus the remover of obstacles, this Hindu god. So I am like God plus one of the gods. Plus Scott LaRock, who at one point in time was convinced he was me, and then he is me, and now he is, and so it makes sense, you know, we are the destroyer. But like, it's one of those things too, right, where he might decide once we get to heaven to go back to his body, you know, and go through whatever process nature will allow him to look for true love outside of me. He also might just chill. The Shakti is cool with whatever, right? Because we're cool with it too. That's pretty fucking normal, even though it sounds wild and out of control. So like I say all this stuff that sounds all disrespectful, like I'm just making crazy shit up, but it's just like, well, imagine, you know, if you were stuck in the same body with your best friends, like, would you just sit there and like be like awkward all day long, or would you be like, let's go? You know? The fuck? We're down. And I'll tell you this, anybody who is not down, who is not willing to like get in line, who's not willing to submit themselves to the natural authority and the phylum that my divine mind has developed in whatever realm they're sitting in to fucking, you know, watch this or be part of it, then, you know, naturally, they're not going to last very long. But I'll tell you this, there's at least, you know, like in the range of like 55,000 ancestors with me at all times, right? That's why we just use Arlington as a reference. And yeah, dear, that fucking... that's my resting place. It's so trippy, dude, to be me and go there. It's really cool. It's really fun. Me and Randy had a fucking blast with the ancestors, you know? We all love that shit. But it's like, yeah, dude, we're having the illest, realest, most, you know, socially advanced experience that's been experienced on the face of the earth. And everybody just looks at us like, you know, we're crazy or like we're a schizo or some bullshit, right? Until they sit there and listen to what we have to say. And it's like, well, they'd be schizophrenic if everything they said and didn't make fucking perfect sense for some reason. Because it does. You know? But I come from a place where, like, you know, when I grew up and I was just, you know, running around being shiva, they fucking were like, oh, hell fucking no. You know? They isolated the fuck out of me from all the other fucking kids and put me in a special ed room, you know? And gave me medication and told me stories that were contradictory to how I felt. So I, you know, that's happened to me a lot. Where do you think me being the Lord of Dance comes from? Where I'm forced into these situations where I don't get to talk. And the only way I have to express myself is to fucking move, you know? And I dance my way to being, you know, respected and considered a god. When really even that, right, can feel sometimes to me like still I'm taken down a peg. Because I remember where I come from. So, you know, all the shit, the crazy shit that me and Randy talk about, all the stuff we make up, we over-exaggerate stuff so that you can develop your own sense of what we're saying and what part of what we're saying is love. And so you can interpret that, you know, with just your natural, evolved cognitive ability as, you know, an animal who is, you know, gotten this far on this planet, generation after generation, right? Like, that's, you know, the bodies that we are in, right, got this far from doing a lot more of that than being like, no, it's just like, let's go. So it's, you know, love. Love is truth and truth is love. They're interchangeable words. La da 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 da. For some fucking reason, I've got a perfectly working proof, you know, a scientific method and proof that never fails of how you can make yourself aware of the sixth sense. And yet, what? Trying to say I plagiarized some ancient Hindu culture that what? I was the original person that came from it. And the reason that I have the ability to come up with a proof like that and simplify it to the point where I'm like, yeah, look, you could use this and it works. It's all correct, right? And all of a sudden, like, there's these tangible ways of perceiving your sixth sense that everybody can use. I don't get a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I get targeted in an attempt to be exploited rather than given praise for being loved. Yeah, nothing's fucking changed in like 6,000 years. Bring it, motherfuckers. The more you try to fuck with me, the better I get at this. The more you fight the love, the truth, right? You just make yourself sick. And I'll warn you and tell you not to. Like, Chris, you ill. Because you will just let people sit there and do your thing. Whatever. Anyways, yeah, so, Randy and I over-exaggerate. We're dramatic. And when we get to a place where we're like this, and I gather as many ancestors, and I'm like, the sensible thing to do is be more dramatic, to go to these extremes and let you develop those senses of it. And then also go back and let you know, hey, I'm not like crazy. I'm not an asshole. I'm cognate and cognizant of this experience and realm, right? Like, I know what I'm doing, and I'll talk about it, I'll over-exaggerate it, I'm really originally a fucking dancer by trade. Do you guys understand that? That's literally like what I just naturally do. So I go to those extremes so that when you're graced in my presence in reality, right, you're ready for the craziest shit, and then it's like, oh, this just feels comfortable and normal. You're overwhelmed with the sense of love. So, that's why we do that kind of stuff and the purpose it serves. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my friends in my chat and what we mean, because this is about to get fucking serious and real. It's also going to end with fun, because sure, these challenges, all this shit, nothing's ever enough, but that also means that I can never have enough of enjoying myself and being fun, being love, and I want people to know they can take me seriously and that I will save the day, but like, I'm not gonna fucking be some kind of fucking dickhead police officer enforcing rules and shit after I do, right? I do that shit so that we can have time and space to enjoy life and alleviate human suffering for as many individuals as possible that deserve it. And well, unfortunately, if I'm forced to make an example out of somebody to prevent, human suffering on a large scale by viscerally targeting an individual to make an example out of and apply fucking discipline to that person, because it's necessary for me to, I will. And if it gets real complicated and convoluted, if there's like a lot of bad shit mixed in with good, everybody, playing fucking, like, what's happened recently? Well, I always prevail. Always have, always will. And I'll take my time. And right now, anybody who's against me, well, I already know what I'm doing. I'm striking the fear of love straight through your chest, to your heart. a straight path. And you know how powerful love can be as a motive for behavior and give you inspiration, all the good aspects of it, but you get on the wrong side of it. The fear of God struck in your heart when you viscerally know it's the fear of love. Well, anybody who wants to challenge me or go against me, good luck fucking dealing with that. And know this. You're lucky to have me tell you what the fuck's going on. Because if you feel that, I'm the Lord of mercy, remember? I'm merciful. All I'll do is show you the love and the truth of how you did that to yourselves. So, here we are in New Zealand, right? When, this is a dream of mine. I'm living it out. All those things I said about the dream I have are real. There are things that I thought about and wanted to be able to do for a long time, but never had the opportunity to, because there's a lot of ground to cover if I'm going to come here and provide that and, be allowed to, like literally I'm in fucking my church, right? I'm in a town called Christ Church and I'm Jesus Christ. This is my military issued dog tag to identify me. And if you were to perceive the unknown soldier as anything other than Jesus Christ, right? Like primarily, right? I get that I got a lot of ancestors with me and there's a lot of military personnel, right? Because, there are other soldiers who have not been able to be identified, and that grave is for us to share, but really it's just a gateway and a portal, right? Into the realm of love, right? But I'm the authority there, so me and my special ops have to, decide who makes the band, right? And who has to go. That's why I'm like, you should be my friend, because I would love to share the details. But I'm not going to if everybody's treats me like they're scared of me, like it's awkward. It's like, dude, I'm the nicest fucking person. Like, Chris, you're surrounded. Larry, you be surrounded by all these kids who worship you, dude. And we both know, right, that you're the shit, dog. You're the fucking coolest motherfucker. But me too, fool. And we both know, you put on a good face, man. But you are a rude boy. You are not nice. Me, I am nice, right? I'm only a rude boy when I have to be. And I'll be rude as fuck if I have to. I'll give you a run for your money, but you knowledge, you karma. It's your job to let people get into it, and you just happen to live in, exist in a realm where shit goes down, and it's a smooth sailing. But it's yeah, dude, I know how you think. You're right, you're just in your behavior and your actions, but dude, some of the people that you surround yourself with, knew you like I knew you, oh, they would fucking run for the hills like they do when they see me. And they'd come ask me for help. They're running from it. They're like, people are backwards, right? So you and I, we both know we've been trying to figure out what the fuck's going on and why this has been happening for a long time. And well, why am I in a place called my church? And when I got here, instead of having the red carpet rolled out, they're like, we need to check your asshole. It's like, sure. Just don't violate me. You know what I mean? Don't steal my shit. Like, check whatever you want. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm not here to break the law. I'm not here to do anything illegal, right? But like, imagine how it would feel if you were Jesus Christ and you walked into a place called, you know, your church. Like, literally everybody says, like, Christ Church, right? But when I get to Christ Church, I'm like, oh, my church, right? Nobody's gonna just be like, oh, you're Jesus Christ. No, I have to do I have to come up with some insane, you know, scientific methodology of developing a fucking proof that works, that I can use just to have the dignity of being myself, walking around on the streets of a city named after me that's like grants me to be the authority, right? So I'm like, I know that I will, but the way that people treat me, I'm like, whoa, they're going to try to make this fucking impossible for me. And then I'm going to have to, you know, I'm going to have to, well, perform something divine, a miracle, to get them to realize that I am the Christ that this city is named after, right? And I'm coming from a place where, like, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Holy Faith, right? We're like, I grew up in an environment where people were pretending to my face like they believed in me, even though I know they didn't, right? And so, like, I have to navigate that with love and respect for them. Like, oh, they're trying to make my fantasy become true and real. But it's like, it's not a fantasy for me to be who I am. Like, you guys realize I remember, like, dying for everybody's sins and how much that fucking hurt? I'm not going to get into too much details about that, but, like, if I was just some rich, special, dumb, spoiled, you know what I mean? If I'm just some special ed kid who's got the ability to be, like, as tough as I am and do the thing, it's like, something doesn't add up. Unless, like, it's my narrative and, oh, it all of a sudden makes sense. Well, dog tag, right? So this thing is military issued, right? So who handed me this thing, right? Queen Mary Lee, my mom. But even my mom, right? Like, she's scared of the fact that she knows that I'm God, right? So she hands me something like this because she knows it's the right thing to do. She knows that we both know who I am, right? But she's not going to sit there and be like, oh, you're Jesus or you're Allah. Like, if I try to talk to her about it, she's going to be like, oh, no, you're not. She's going to knock me down a peg, right? But I know that we both know that's not the truth. And she's just doing that because she wants to protect me and she doesn't want to see me, you know, get locked up or be considered schizophrenic. And she also has, you know, her own social dignity to uphold in herself amongst her peer group, which can be influential. And for someone like her, you know, we all need social interactions and friends. I'm the only person who, you know, can communicate as well as I can with the dead, to where, you know, it's gotten to the point where, you know, I feel more alone a lot of the time when I'm surrounded by people who are living than when I'm alone. Because when I'm alone, it's like I'm with my best friends. There's natural communication, right? And there's no barrier of, like, us needing to provide for a bunch of bodies, right? There's just one body we got to take care of. But it's like, yeah, nobody, I'm the only person who's understanding of that, accepting of that. So then I have all these blessings and these gifts, these abilities, you know. Literally, I've got a bunch of magic wands that work. Look at this one. The last one, my father, Justin Stanford Lee, hi Pops, Colin, made. Gave to me before he died. Might not be as powerful as some of the ones that I've made, right? Oh, but you are going to trip on what I do with this, because you all are more willing to accept him as Father God than me. So, okay, I'll give you what you want. That's like you, Chris. Christian Civil will be the only Jesus Christ you will ever get a racial bias face. Then you can just choose which color you like. Or, you know, whatever the fuck you want. Believe whoever you want. But, like, it's safe. I know for a fact that it's safe to consider, you know, Cristo or Christ. Like, and this is why, and that's what I'm establishing and doing this for everyone. And it's risky, you know. I risk my life, dude. Who knows what people could do to me? This is interpreted incorrectly, you know. And I've said crazy stuff just to, you know, I've had to throw people off, but I always try to do it in a way where it's like, yeah, you want to present a narrative to me that you're willing to believe in, I'll play along. I play well with others. I'm not gonna fucking scrub my test because I have too much pride to not do that. I want us all to enjoy life, you know? So, we're here in New Zealand because, like, yeah, we kind of wanted to go celebrate in New York Hip Hop Appreciation Week, but it seemed dangerous, you know? Nobody reaches out to me. I reach out to everybody with, like, all the crazy stuff that goes through my mind. And I, like I said, I over-exaggerate stuff to be like, hey, does this get anybody's attention? You guys are going to really practice extinction on somebody, you know, who's saying this? You're really going to call yourself a god? And, you know, so either, like, you're a fraud or, right, you're doing that there's a reason. So I just have to hope for the best, you know? But I don't want to accidentally fucking humiliate everybody and be like, create a situation where it's like their feelings get hurt and then they can't enjoy me because, like, nobody tried to play with me until, like, I played with myself, you know, and my best friends so well that, like, you know, I bring shame to everybody. And so, you know, I have to hope that so much of this is done on purpose, right? Like, I say crazy stuff, like the Illuminati shit and the Nazi shit, you know what I mean? I drop in hard R's when I'm saying things. But yeah, dude. Let's talk about some real stuff. Because I came here because I do have that dream. And all I want to do is go shredding. And I want to leave this in the past and let it go. But, like, how can I be a ski instructor? Like, how can I do anything, anywhere, if I don't validate myself, right? If I just let all this hard work not serve a greater purpose, you know? I'm not going to let the ancestors lead, you know, into a situation where they could potentially feel led on by somebody who tricked them. Like, there are moments when they almost have more faith in me than I have in myself. And I'm like, hey, you guys, like, I have to act like I don't have that right now. So I thank them for having that in me, you know? and us all not being afraid to remind each other of who we are, right? But I have a lot of moments where I just have to function as a productive member of society and keep my fucking mouth shut. And that's cool, that's fine, right? But like, misinformation has caused rampant mental health problems all over the world recently, right? And I've had to try to figure out what the fuck is happening, how it's happening, why it's happening, and where it's coming from, right? And somebody set us up, Chris. You especially. For me to go at you. So sometimes when I do that, right? Well, you already know the drill. Because look, all my friends are dead. And I will provide them with justice so that didn't happen to me. And they're with me. And I'd still be the shit without them. So like, base it to me, Pac. I'll catch you another time. You know that song? You ain't shit without your homeboys. Have people been spreading misinformation so that they're trying to make Pac look like he was saying that about me, like himself? Do you guys understand? Misinformation, right, doesn't work on me. I have no perception of bullshit to be true. I don't have that ability. I can only imagine it. So like I would have to try really hard to be sick. And the conditions I'm diagnosed with, right? I've turned into my strengths. I've turned my ADHD into a superpower. I've turned my autism into a superpower. Imagine, right? If I was taken seriously, if I was accepted, I could provide that to every other kid suffering from the same thing better than anybody else could. But if I'm forced to, represent a character that, can't do that. I can't help anybody, and I took a Hippocratic oath. So I'm in a little bit of a tricky spot. And that's why I'm doing this. Because I'm going to make sense of everything. So, intelligent movement is all about safely having fun. So I have extensive training in extreme athletics, right? And extensive training on how to take something dangerous, right? And make it safe. And, what I've been through, like, honestly, it's super healthy for me to partake in, athletics that have a danger aspect to them, right? Because that, a lot of the time, is safer for me to do than to, try to rap. I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I had my album. I was working 2 regular jobs, I was working at a senior center where I would serve, the seniors that lived there. And that required a lot of discipline to just be a mature adult that they could like rely on. And then I worked for another company as well. So I had two jobs to save up. I'd recorded my album in hopes that, you know, do my thing, put on a show. And I have to promote it. I have to, you know, rent a venue. I have to do everything all on my own. So as I'm trying to research this, right? You know what happened to me? Really crappy stuff. Fuck, my phone's gonna die. It sucks. There's just so much stuff. Anyways, that I found more. I somehow, right, just going to a show to research, to see what was out there, what people were doing, research venues so that I could find the right place to invest my money in, to just play a show for everybody that I was going to put on for free, you know, in hopes that I could get a response as to whether anybody thinks my album is good as I do. And, you know, like Tupac and Big L and fucking Randy Parker and Scott LaRock think is, and, you know... It's like, why do all these dead people, why are the dead people the only people with me that, like, see the value? And nobody, it's just like, you know, okay. I was researching a show in this venue, right? They threw me out. And it was like, dude, I'm just trying to figure out where to play a show. So instead of like just like going home because I was like upset that they threw me out of a show going on because I'm like sitting there just watching. So obviously, like, I don't know what the fuck, why they would do that, but I didn't like it. So I just went outside in the parking lot and started performing my album. Next thing I know, security is chasing some kid out the venue with guns, and you know, a local police officer rolls up, and this kid jumps in his car, and he's got security and, you know, local PD with guns on him, while I'm just like rapping my album in the parking lot, like watching a Mexican standoff, where it looked like they let this kid go in there and, like, you know, have his fun party, maybe like distribute some things that they might have, who knows, even asked him to bring, just so that when he was done and had collected, you know, reimbursement for providing them with what they asked him to do, they could take all his cash, leave him high and dry. You know what I did? I just started rapping and breaking right there. The police got scared. The security got scared. The kid, who was innocent, obviously, in all of it, did not. He was like, hey, what's going on? I'm like looking at him. I'm like, you might want to fucking run. I really don't want to see anybody get shot. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because, yeah, it struck the fear of God in him. The fear of love. That kid got away safely. But I was like, okay, so that's not safe. That's not safely having fun. I am way better off, you know, trying to have safe fun hitting a 65-foot kicker and, you know, doing double cork 10s than, you know, having a bullet pulled on me. And all that my friends have, you know, have died from shit like that. Agree. It's not even rocket science. It's pretty fucking simple. So, like, you know, I would have loved to, you know, get more involved, right? But all I have is my skill. All I have to offer, you know, is who I am. And I know it's good enough, you know. And I would fucking do what anybody ever asked me to do, but nobody ever asks me to do anything. Nobody, like, you know, I'll show up and everybody's like, you know, treats me strange. Well, fuck that. That ends right here, right now. So yeah, it seemed a lot safer to just like go to New Zealand and try to live out a crazy dream, because, well, I'll get to also deliver justice to everybody. Sure, I'll have to do it alone. Sure, you know, a dangerous situation is the safest thing for me to do, but all the people that planned on hunting me, right? They're all about to get shut down. Like when I was a kid and those, you know, my family was taking me on a vacation and the airplane pilots let me into the cockpit and started messing with me for whatever reason, you know. Probably because they were aware of my birth date, considering we were traveling, right? And the Dougie Fresh album, you know what I mean? So I'm like knowing I'm God, but like don't want to tell anybody at that age, right? Thinking that there's no way that anybody could possibly know, except for I accidentally did that or something, or, you know, divine coincidence, who knows, right? Or maybe you guys, you know, obviously, 3 wise men, right? That's a classic story. So you guys like have this way of knowing when I'm going to show up, even if, and I don't know how you do that. Something with the stars and the calculation, right? There's just a time for me to show up, and essentially you could, any number of like activities, right, could lure me out to where I'm like, this is a good time for me to live a life, you know, or there's some reason that everybody needs me, right? There's always this divine purpose. And I'm always forced to struggle and suffer more than is necessary. And I overcome the challenges, and then I provide, you know, alleviation of human suffering to everyone on earth by taking on challenges, by doing the right thing. Everybody's been tricked into thinking is wrong. And I'm going to give you a huge example of that right now. Because the Archangel Gabriel, you know, Krishna, Ahan, Muhammad, bruh, you're going to have to verify this. Do the right thing. I trust that you will. Because let's just examine something quickly. Let's just cut to the chase here. Because I just want to, you know, be a coach and a ski instructor. I just want to do good stuff. I just want to be fun. I have a real PhD in divine practitioning. I have story mechanics engineered, you know, by me and the most intelligent crew to help these kids self-create and not feel like they're trapped in a world of competition that's overbearing, dangerous, and isolates them from everyone, to be cutthroat. And I don't know, you know, how bad shit gets, but like corporate espionage, you know, these companies, who knows how people get turned from being innocent people who love what they do into, well, some kind of fucking assassin for a company, you know. Unauthorized purging bullshit is going on. I'm not down. I'll do anything to avoid, you know, trying to hurt anyone or anything. And the ancestors are constantly telling me that I have some sort of right to. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? So I just play along. So I know I'm not going to do anything. But I know that, like, I'll defend myself by any means necessary, right? So, yeah, I authored the Quran, dude. I'm Allah. I'm Jesus Christ. Look, here's the Archangel Gabriel, who helped deliver, right, that message to you, Ahan. Because I knew if you saw me, right, like, I went to heaven and became God after being Jesus Christ, dude. And you did not after being Christo. Nature did that to us. For whatever reason. So yeah, we might have been the two at the beginning or whatever, right? But like, dude, Lord of all worlds. So, let's just examine something. Dog tag, right? So you have the Archangel Gabriel here, right? Wearing a cross, right? Pointing, right? And so, like, we're close, right? He knows me as Jesus Christ Allah. That's why he's doing this. He's like, look, I am the Archangel Gabriel. The person who helped write, helped me, Jesus Christ Allah, author the Quran by having you write it down. Larry, that happened when you were Muhammad. Do you remember that? So I was trying to help you get to where I was, and he was too, and you needed it. And that is the greatest book ever written. I didn't get better than that, dude. Do you know how much time I had to spend reading the Bible with the ancestors from the Arlington Cemetery to clarify stuff that, other people wrote about me to prove to them? Like, I could do that all day with anybody, right? But unless you're going to buy into the premise that, that's what I'm doing to see if it's real or not, right? You have to give it a shot, right? You just sit there and just think that I'm making the stuff that I'm making up, but like, things become very clear when nature takes hold. So it didn't take me very long. I had to read like maybe a few different scriptures before they were all like, oops. Right? And then it's like, what are you guys saying oops for? You weren't using military resources to try to fucking exploit a kid that you thought was a fraud because you couldn't explain my birth date in the fucking Dougie Fresh album. Ridiculous. So, I was backup plan. So here you have somebody, right, who's saying they believe in Jesus. It's like, so he's telling you Jesus Christ law. So you could confirm that. He's the Archangel Gabriel who helped you write that stuff down. I'm not trying to do this to get money. It's about justice. Why is Big L dead, huh? Well, let's take a step back. The way that Scott was killed served as an example for everybody in New York in that culture to observe, where somebody could die accidentally. So, you know, I hear the Big Picture album. As a child. You know, and I'm like, okay, this just like speaks to me. You know, I have to like figure this out after being dragged through so much, and like knowing who I am, but like, you know, having the sense of who he is, but like, you know, I can't talk shit to anybody about any of this stuff. Motive, right? So the story is what? Let me put it this way: Scott's death was an accident, a tragedy, and you made the right choice, Krish. And that's the thing. That's why you're innocent. Your soul is saved, dude. And all this bullshit today is not your fault. It's not because you did what you did when you were a Han. Like, we argued about that, but you made the right choice for yourself, right? And it's my job just to remind you of like all the stuff we went through, and that like I wish that we had fucking, you know, gone out together, because it just alleviated a lot of your suffering, and you know, other people's also, but you also saved a lot of people by doing that, dude. Unfortunately, it caused enough of a disturbance for, you know, colonial peoples. And when I was Moses, you know, they're fucking trained. I went around with, you know, the pharaohs and shit while they're trying to teach me to be fucking raw, dude. And all I saw was like, okay, so these indigenous people, the darker people all around the world, right, are being exploited and getting taken advantage of, right? And the fastest way to avoid that is to remember your culture, right? Keep it to yourselves, you know, and change your appearance enough to where they're not gonna fucking look at you and target you because you're darker than they are. That started 4,000 fucking years ago, everybody. So that's why I did what I did and took everybody in the fucking caves, because I was like, I'm gonna like go to an extreme, take some extreme measures, right, to save my people. You chose the same thing, but you were like, you know, I'm gonna go get wild, you know. I mean, you were just in everything you did, right? You're the older brother, dude. So what the fuck happened in these modern times, right? Well, I had to act like I was gonna blame you, obviously, because I always knew who the real criminal was, who had motive to hurt my friends. And yeah, it comes back down to Scott the Rock, because that hit you real, that hit you hard, and that shit made you realize some bullshit was up. And you made the right choice. Hey, let's stop screwing around. Let's stop the violence. You took the righteous path. You proved to everybody that the drama, and you're innocent. You are the rightful, you know, person to inherit and benefit from your hip-hop music industry. But, you know, me too, dog. And the people who exploited that are gonna pay, because they're not gonna have a peg to stand on anymore. what happened to people like, you know, Diddy and Jay-Z? Where did they come from? New York, right? They know you, and they know your story. You were the biggest threat, you know, to taking that over, dude. And then you're like, stop divine, like you did the right thing, right? And what did your competitors do? They doubled down on something that they are about to pay for. They used Scott's death as an example of how to get away with murder, and started framing the competition to take them out. And only because you did the right thing and them doing the wrong thing to get money in a place like New York made them look cool, where they could fucking lie about it. They studied how Scott was killed. So when L here saw that complacent pussy ass Jay-Z, who had no skill, you know what I mean, and was like a bad dude who was like a dangerous drug dealer who was trying to get away from it by kissing the asses of these rich corporate executive people that he would sell drugs to, because he was comfortable bending over and doing anything he could to get himself ahead and figure out a way to make himself look righteous. He started by plagiarizing you. Then he plagiarized Scott's death, right? He had L killed because he knew L was gonna fucking destroy him in the booth, and did too. And made it look like some bullshit where he was accidentally targeted by some rival gang because they thought L was Big Lee. Can't fool me though, can you? And I finally got the scientific evidence and proof. Motive? Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like, oh shit, that would have been dangerous. Justin rode a bike through New York, knowing all this, knowing that they knew it about him. That would get him one day. Yeah. Come to New Zealand and try to come and get me. I will, well, I'll beat you with a pencil. Because you think I've got a pencil and I know it's a magic wand. I mean, I'm Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z, Hove, this fucking Diamond Group bullshit. Like, dude, all he did was study how to rip everybody off and use a bunch of fucking hate and resources. You know, he manipulated my Jewish family members into thinking he was something he wasn't, right? And only was able to do that because you were doing the right thing. People thought he was cool. They could market him. They didn't realize, you know, he's some evil-ass motherfucker. Just murdering competition who's actually, you know, got skill. Serves a purpose. Exploiting the accidental death. Scott, yeah, are you fucking kidding me? To get away with more murder? So, like, when somebody like him does that, right? How does that affect someone like Sean, Puffy, Diddy, huh? See, everybody that was tricked by this bullshit fake ass marketing scheme, right, started believing things that weren't true. That misinformation causes mental psychosis to begin to develop. You start convincing yourself of one thing that isn't true. The snowball effect. So your life's a mess. Thank you, whatever, Chris, whatever you did to get me out of there so that I could come back and do this one day. Thank you. I know you had my best interest and safety in mind when you dragged me out to a deserted route, and you must learn. The teacher returned. The word is out. Because it's special ed. Like, either I am who I claim to be, or I'm just like some special ed student who's been completely removed from most normal social scenes and activities, and the other kids constantly tried to trick me and bait me into doing, illegal activity just because I had I am an animal. I do have social needs like everyone. And the kids knew that. I knew that I would be granted certain graces, who would look the other way. And so, only let me be social when I got him some weed or some bullshit. You know how much that sucks and hurts? You know how strong you have to be to have the discipline to not let that ruin your life? When you have, primal needs. It's hard, man. So either some stupid special ed kid was able to see this clearly, or I am who I claim to be. Well, the 98 freestyle, right? Jay-Z killed L. Framed his brother for being responsible by studying what happened to Scott and creating a situation where he could tell that narrative. And the clear motive for him to do so was what? L was gonna fucking tear him to shreds. He was already onto him and not gonna let him fucking get away with shit. Because L, if somebody was gonna beat the cool kid, if the right guy was gonna make it and make the music industry for New York, it was you, Krish, and you deserve that. And if it was gonna be the bad guy, who's really a good guy, the Archangel Gabriel, yeah. And we were in heaven, before, we have a lot of discussions, he's the only person I authorized to take that approach because he's the only person who could execute it as well as I could, potentially. And when he he struck the fear of love into JC's heart with that 98 freestyle. And Jay-Z, best believe, he knew I was talking about him. We're going to get into that next also. So there's your motive, right? I mean, how simple is all that? Scary, huh? And then P. Diddy sees this work. Do you understand that this is the framework that led to also the deaths of Biggie, Tupac, and pretty much everybody else who didn't fall in line to big billionaire bitch boy? And then you got Queen Bee, Beyonce, right? Ooh, well, there's things about Beyonce I love, right? But Destiny's Child turned into Queen Bee, right? How was that level of talent pushed out of her? What was driving her anyways, right? To go from that to Beyonce. I would hypothesize, and the simplest answer and explanation for that is what? Look at the way she smiles. Even in like Austin Powers, right? It's like, yo, she's like more of a fembot the whole movie than those other white girls in the other ones. She like too cool sometimes and like sus, yo. And it's like, yeah, I think if she was put in a position where he got her career from Destiny's Child to, becoming Beyonce, and at some point, she found out the truth. So you better sing your ass off to get out of that one. And somehow Jay-Z convinces everybody eventually that what? L was the bad guy. I'm the bad guy. Nah, dude, you're fucking guilty of murder, fool. Murder of an angel? Sent by Jesus Christ himself to get rid of the convolution between Jesus and Allah being two different people. You should see me read the Quran. You see me with that thing. It's so easy for me to prove that I'm the author of that book. And look, the only person who has motive, right, to take our bridge away is Jay-Z. And evidence is going to start to pile up. So, like, Beyonce is innocent, but she definitely knows about it. So, like, at a certain point, you got to do the right thing, everybody. Poor thing's probably in danger. I'm relying on the fact that, like, there's no way he could get away with hurting her. And he probably, has a thing for her. I don't even know if someone like him has a capacity for the emotion of love. That's why I'm not scared to, call him a Nazi and say all that other shit. Because he's the person who takes something like, the District of Columbia, which is the head of the capital of the United States, and makes it look like the United States is really run by illegal drug trade funds that come from that being exported, right? And he gets to be like the king of it. And then he gets to try to fucking, put off blame and get me to chase a bunch of fucking rich white dudes in the president. So I just know that the only way to get him is to play along and make me look like I'm crazy until I move intelligently. And yeah, I had to do all that so that I didn't get killed. So the reason that, Tupac became Machiavellian, fuck the world, right? Tupac is this guy's understudy. He became Machiavelli because he didn't know what to do. Thanks to me, I've restored his rightful place. He is now again the Archangel Michael, the angel of fire. That's why I'm his fucking role model. I took him from fuck the world to what the fuck. Yeah, me and Randy have control of the body. Tupac has figured out. Well, we've got such similar voice signatures naturally, but you hear me laugh, you can hear Tupac. I mean, I can match his vocal signature closer than anybody else on the planet, as well as L's, and as well as yours, by the way, Krish. I can also project my voice louder than you. That's why nobody will give me an opportunity to play a show. I will fucking tear the house down. Like you. Combined with, Pac and L, dude. I am the biggest threat to the music industry. Because I got skills. Not because I'm fucking Jesus or Allah. Die for anybody's sins. Magic wand from my fucking father Lehi and can remember every different individual I was. Created magic shit where I can fucking respawn. Yo, I'm the first fucking white Native American. And I even know the secret of Jack's timeline. I broke my family's curse. They were screwed. Everybody thinks, a lot of people think Lammy and Lammy are cool. It's like, no, I had to fucking teach them a fucking lesson. Dealing with those two is like, Jay-Z ain't shit compared to those two's crazy, psychotic shit. Get on my bad side. Worst mistake you could make in the world. And this is panned out. Pandemonium. I haven't had a sense of all this stuff since I was a kid. To wait till it was safe for me to do something like this. And yeah, dude. Chances are they're gonna fucking throw me out of New Zealand after 3 months. So I have to go back to the East Coast after doing all this. I ain't scared. Jay-Z should be scared. Because he was willing to frame the president of the United States, the 5 richest men, hide behind them, hide behind his basketball team, all that shit. How could I make up this stuff that I say? I'm not even creative like that. My skill comes from me just being honest and truthful. And, being a survivor. So, let's talk, that's why I established the narrative, the things I said, and explained what I did and how I did, because, well, even though that shit is that crazy, it actually makes a lot of sense out of all the other stuff that can't be explained, and why there's so much violence and deaths going on. Everybody's really sick, and they're all really sick because they've been tricked and lied to, and given a narrative that's bullshit, but like, for some reason, is allowed to fly because what? The people conducting that are complacent to whatever, whoever convinced them that was okay and the right thing to do. And then they try to fucking, act like people like my family members, right? Trick them into sponsoring these people at one point until they've done something really wrong, right? And even if they find out about it at that point, right? Someone like Z is just like, yeah, going to say that they made him do it, except for I'm going to prove that none of that makes any fucking sense at all. So I'm here because what? And justice for my family, justice for my heritage, justice for my city. I rode my bike through Harlem when I was at the Hot 22. Everybody's about to fucking kill me. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? This is my house, yo. So it's like, okay. So you guys all already know this? And you think that you believe Jay-Z's bullshit, right? Thinking that he was Al's best friend and that like Jay-Z is all. Please. That is the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever heard. Plagiarized museum. It's like, no, dude. Just give me everything you got. The only thing I can do is ensure that you'll be left alone. Like, everybody can peacefully walk away. Because, dude, murder. And it builds and builds to the point where, like, I've been forced, my family, I've been forced into so much. It all stems from that. And all the things that the good people of New York tried to do to help me, right? You let somebody, like these people, you know, something like Jay-Z, fucking twist everybody's mind up so they ain't acting right. I mean, like, I think Diddy needs a lot of help, right? But I would say that, like, he's really sick and been really sick for a long time, right? And that's a mental psychosis that was consciously and intentionally initiated by Jay-Z. Therefore, you know, he shares a lot of the responsibility in taking blame for the criminal activities that he got involved in, because he's just using these people as shields and then teaching that that's the methodology of how stuff works. But there's no righteousness in that. There's no God in that. There's no love in that. That's fucking Nazis in America. And then you got these fucking white kids, right? Like white neo-Nazis, there's nothing that they like more than flipping colored folk into being on their side. It's like Kanye, right? All his hit, like, Kanye, dude, you need to go to a mental fucking institution, nigga. And like Jay-Z, you are responsible for all his like psychosis. Yeah, all these shields you put up. You're buying the Brooklyn Nets, right? Like, you literally did that after killing L, to put on a front that 98 freestyle. Like, all the good things about it that he says were about you. Well, we both know that's bullshit. And all that shit he was talking, that you've been spreading rumors about, saying that's me, do you know? Ain't none of the ancestors gonna let you get away with shit, motherfucker. You've made an ass out of New York. And I'll fix it. I'll become the greatest skier in the world in New Zealand before I come back and do it too.